I would like to call the Monday, April 19th, 2021 Orange Board of Education meeting to order at 7:07. Could we please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mission statement. Kim, would you be kind enough to read it for us, please?
The Orange Elementary School District recognizes that the education of each child is the shared responsibility of every member of the community. Our goal is to inspire and empower each student to achieve academic excellence, embrace social and individual responsibility, and lead with integrity. We believe all individuals should be valued and treated with respect. Together, we will make a difference.
Very much. Do we have any public participation? I don't think I see any. Anyone? Very well. At this point, I'd like to ask the board to approve an amendment to the agenda. I would like to move under board business, item number 1, Turkey Hill School Principal Tricia Lasto, to where Dr. Scarpetti's report would be, and then Dr. Scarpetti's report would follow her right after that.
Just number 1, not all of board business.
That's right, just number 1. Basically flipping number 1, Turkey Hill School Principal Trish Lasto, and the superintendent's report. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve that? Charles, do I have a second? Betty? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Very well, thank you. We'll move on to consent agenda. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I skipped correspondence, of which we have none. Okay. Consent agenda. I will need a motion to accept the items under the consent agenda. The items are the regular session minutes from the March 15th, 2021 Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the March 15th, 2020 Board of Education meeting? Susan, do I have a second? I'm sorry? Carmen? Any discussion on this? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Thank you. All righty. So, Principal Lasto, if you'd like to step up.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Is it working? Okay. I am so excited to be here tonight. I am Tricia Lasto. I am the principal of Mary L. Tracy School, but I am here to talk about Turkey Hill School. And really what I'm here to talk about is someone who is so near and dear to this community. Someone who, if you grew up in town, you knew the name for sure. And you definitely knew that she was an important role model to the adults and the children in this town. And someone who dedicated her entire life, and still is, to the town of Orange. And so I want to start by talking about Dorothy L. Berger, affectionately known as Dottie to most of us, or Dot to some. But Dorothy Berger has had an amazing run here in Orange. She wasn't born here, she wasn't schooled here, but in 1952, she started her journey with Orange. And the story is quite amazing. She has done something that no one else has done before her or after. So Dorothy Berger was a little college student in Derby Library, and someone used to go to the library quite frequently, and her name was Miss Mary L. Tracy. And Mary Tracy took to Miss Dottie and encouraged her to apply to the Orange Public Schools. And so when she finished her college at New Haven Teachers College, she did just that. She applied to Orange, and she got the job. She was hired in 1952 at Orange Center School. At that time, that was the name. For 11 years, she remained a teacher with exuberance, with a fever and a furor for life that anyone who met her knew about. And in 1963, 11 years later, she was appointed the principal of Turkey Hill School. Now that sounds quite common. You're a teacher, you become a principal, it happens. I have done the same thing. But what is very unique is that there was no Turkey Hill School. She was hired as the principal of a building as a first-year administrator and entrusted to plan that entire building. The architecture, the hallways, the colors, the chalkboards, the staff. She goes into great detail in her file about what type of staff she wanted and how she was going to blend experienced with novice, creative with more traditional. She planned the curriculum. She was in charge of every piece of that building for 13 months. And in only 13 months, she says that 9 busloads of children pulled up and Turkey Hill School was opened in 1964. And there she was on the steps welcoming the students to that school. She remained there for an amazing 18 years after that 1 year, so 19 years as principal. After that, you might wonder what happened. She became superintendent. That was her next step. She was superintendent for 7 years, and in that time, she oversaw another construction project, Mary L. Tracy School. Mary L. Tracy had closed, and Dottie was not willing to give it up. She was not willing to give it up for the children, and she was not willing to give up the legacy of Mary L. Tracy. She knew how important that was to have your name on a building and to be respected and to allow generations of people, students, adults, everyone in town, to be able to tell the story of Mary L. because of the building. And she oversaw the project that reopened Mary L. as the Orange Early Childhood Center. When you see her retirement letter, she states very clearly that she's not willing to leave in June, as many superintendents would, but she was going to wait till October to see that project through, to make sure that the building opened and it was completed under her leadership. It's a testament to Dottie. She would never leave something unfinished. She was trusted yet again with another project, and she finished it. Well, you might think that's the end of her story, but it's not. She retired in 1989, and in 1989, she became the first selectman of the town of Orange. She was teacher, principal, superintendent, and first selectman of the town of Orange, a feat never done before or after. Dottie was the only one, and she did it for the love of the town. While first selectman, she also made some really big impacts to the town. She was the leader for the Silverbrook project, the very first congregate senior housing in Orange. Dottie led that push. She was the one who fought for Amity, the land, 60-plus acres, to be acquired in Orange. It's now known to most of us as Fred Wolf Park, but that happened under her leadership. She had the vision and the wisdom to always be forward-thinking, to always plan ahead so that all of the residents of Orange could be protected. So 43 years, she dedicated herself in a formal fashion. But those of you that do know Dottie know that even today, she is involved in volunteering. She's involved in civics. She is everywhere. She is involved. She comes and visits me every so often and gives me a talking to and lets me know what she thinks and how things should be going. She is amazing. And when I started to think about her life and her commitment and what she's done for this town, she never did any of it for fame. She never did any of it for finance, that is for sure, back in those days. But she was a pioneer, and she is someone that we should all remember. We should all know these stories that I'm telling tonight. We should all know the impacts that Dottie Berger has given to this town. And what is the way to do that? Just like we did for Miss Tracy, is to name a school building after Dottie Berger. I would like to ask the board to take under consideration the renaming of Turkey Hill School as the Dorothy L. Berger School. It is something that I do not take lightly. I understand the impact, and I think that this is the person to do it for. I'm happy to talk to anybody about Dottie if anyone has any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Principal Lasto? Go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I have to admit, growing up in Orange and living here again, Mrs. Berger's done amazing things. I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Betty?
I just want to say thank you, Tricia, for bringing this to us, and I certainly wholeheartedly support any efforts we can make to call Dorothy L. Berger School at Turkey Hill, or however we choose to do it.
Yes.
And I'm sure people know, you recognize her driving around town because her license plate is THS 64.
That's it.
Anyone else have questions? Just so that you understand, Principal Lasto is correct in us taking it under consideration. There's really no motion to be had here. I know that Trish spoke to Mr. Zioli. I've spoken with the town's attorney. Both are on board. The town's attorney will look into the logistics of maybe making this happen. It probably will not end up in our lap. It probably would be the job of the selectmen to approve or disapprove that, but that remains to be seen. What I wanted to do was to bring this to the board's attention that there are people in the community that would like to do this, and with the board's blessing, I'd like to move forward with it with some kind of assistance or whatever assistance we could give Trish and anyone else for that matter who may be interested in helping out with this. Does anyone have any objections to this at the moment?
One thing that may make it more easy to get through is if we somehow keep the Turkey Hill name in it somehow. I know a lot of people feel very strongly about their local school. So whether it's Dorothy L. Berger School at Turkey Hill, and whether or not ultimately the Turkey Hill falls off, that's fine. But it might be, the community may be more open to it if we keep a little piece of it.
Yeah, that's a comment that I have heard just in speaking in general.
Yeah.
But I can't thank you enough, Trish, for bringing this to our attention, and Betty as well. I know Betty had brought this to my attention maybe 6 weeks ago in the parking lot where most important discussions take place, and reminded me again a week or two ago. So thank you for getting us back on track with this, Betty. I appreciate the help.
And if I might add, if Dottie's watching, which I'm sure she watches her OGAT, she does not know about this. This will come as a surprise to her. But I want to thank her on behalf of the entire Orange community, of all children who have gone through the town, and on behalf of all adults who are still benefiting from her wisdom. So don't be mad, Dottie. Thank you for all you've done.
Yeah, but if you think about it, any person in this day and age with a resume like that, but think about when, as a woman, she did these things. That you just think about that for a moment.
Yeah. A true role model for
Yeah,
all of us
for
to
sure.
aspire to be like, myself included.
For sure. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Trish.
Yeah, and I just want to say it would be a wonderful thing to, as part of our 200th Orange birthday celebration, which will be next year, 1822 to 2022.
Goal, is it not?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. It's nice to see all of you. Is this on, this mic? This here? And that's fine? Thank you. So I'd like to welcome everyone back from spring break. I hope all our families, students, teachers, and staff enjoyed a well-deserved break. Believe it or not, we have a little over a month left of school. This morning, an email was sent to staff welcoming them back while also sharing the recent and updated Finish Strong document, which I also shared with the entire board. It states what we can continue to do to protect in-person learning for the remainder of the school year, and I think that's very important. I've had a few conversations this past week, and I think at times it's forgotten where we were back in March 2020 when we started the school year. We are in a different place, thankfully. and we want to continue to do so. We are reiterating with our staff and our parents about strong communication, and also with regards to our mitigating strategies. And when you have a moment, you could update all of yourselves. And for the parents watching at home, you always have that on the website to look at too. I want to share that with all of you. And as we've thanked Dr. Muhammad, the Orange Health Department, and our school nurses in the past for the service, we continue to extend our gratitude. When finding out the staff who needed to receive their second vaccine shots was actually scheduled for this week, we reached out to Dr. Muhammad, and par for course, he was extremely flexible in the approach of changing the date for last week. As I shared with the entire board, we were very intentional to have a vaccine clinic on a Friday in order to avoid any of our staff in closing the school because of the reactions people have gotten from their vaccine shots. Fortunately, due to the flexibility of the Orange Health Department, we were able to transition, have the shots this week to avoid that from happening, a possible closure this week if people had their vaccine shots this week. Also, you may have heard that the J&J is no longer available to administer at this time. That caused a little bit of anxiety. Again, our clinic was specifically J&J for most of our staff. And so what we did immediately is we contacted Dr. Muhammad and the nurse supervisor. If there's anything that we need to do to support our staff, an email was sent out to our staff. And we just want to reiterate a few things to them. That, first of all, when this was released, this information about the J&J, we were already 3 weeks past the date of vaccine. Again, if you read any of the articles, they were concerned within the first 2 weeks. We also stated that 6 out of 6.9 million people had a possible adverse reaction to this with the clotting, and that none occurred in Connecticut. And I'm happy to report I haven't heard anything with regards to any of our staff, but just wanted to share our response. Also, this Thursday, April 21st, will be our town budget hearing at High Plains at 7 p.m. in the gym, followed by the May 20th referendum. As you may know, when we last presented to all of you, our increase was 4.38%. But due to the Board of Finance contribution of $243,000, and also using future grants of $100,000 of our own, we were able to reduce the budget and ask for an increase of 2.78%, which I'll present to the town this week. And lastly, some personnel updates. We have postings up for a SPED resource teacher at Peck, a substitute teachers in classrooms, substitute custodians, security monitors substitutes, and kitchen substitutes. In addition, we recently hired a registered behavior technician at MLT, a lunchroom aide at Turkey Hill School, and a special education paraprofessional at MLT, and a reading aides at Peck Place and Racebrook. In addition to that, to update all of you, as I did at the personnel subcommittee meeting, we are continuing the process of the principal position at Racebrook School. A survey went out to all staff and families to participate and have their voice heard during this process. I shared some elements with the subcommittee in response to the surveys. One theme that I pointed out at the subcommittee was that we asked for 3 skills, leadership skills. And what was interesting, the parents and the staff said the same thing. They wanted someone who would be a relationship builder, focus on school climate, and communication. They, again, separately but unanimously, that was the 3 main leadership skills that they had. There are other elements that we'll be using and looking at as we continue to guide us with this process, but we are starting this Wednesday with the interview process. And lastly, the negotiating committee met with the boards of training this past Thursday to begin the process of negotiations of 3 bargaining groups. Those are the custodians, the administrative assistants and paraprofessionals, that's one group, and lastly is our central office administrative assistants. And as a friendly reminder, I know many of you have gone through this process. The negotiating committee negotiates on the behalf of the entire board. Please know that if there's any thoughts that you may have, now's the time to share that with the negotiating committee. And as a reminder, who is on that is Mr. Kraut, Mr. Young, Mrs. Hadlock, and Mrs. Brow. So please don't hesitate to reach out if there's things that you would like to know or express your thoughts or opinions. That's the time to do it. Because after negotiations are over, when we bring it to all of you and we go into executive sessions to ratify those contracts, that's a procedural piece. We don't go back from there. So it's during this time. I know we have a new board member I wanted to share, but in case if anyone has not gone through that experience, I think we have another board member who has not gone through that experience. Please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Mr. Kraut, and we will be more than happy to address that. And that's the end of my report, Mr. Kraut.
Questions for Dr. Scarpetti? Go ahead, Betty.
Thank you, Dr. Scarpetti, for all that information. I was just wondering, could you give us an update on kindergarten enrollment so far?
Sure. I believe we're currently at 147. So it hasn't changed much since, but we're expecting. I think we are above from last year, right, Mrs. Lasso?
We're about 5 ahead of where we were at this time last year.
Okay, and I'd just like to reiterate, if there are any questions or comments that anyone wants to make to any of us that are negotiating the contracts, please feel free to approach any one of the members at any time, okay? Thank you, Dr. Scarpetti. Mr. Gray?
Good evening, everyone. Perfect. You can hear me 2 towns over now. Good evening. I'll begin with a finance update. As Dr. Scarpetti mentioned, the Orange Board of Education approved a budget of $22,009,416 for the 2021-2022 school year. This represents a 2.78% increase over the prior year. Dr. Scarpetti will be presenting the budget during the Orange Town budget hearing on Wednesday, April 21st at 7 p.m. That's being held at High Plains. And the town budget referendum is scheduled for Thursday, May 20th. I'm happy to report, I've said this in several of our previous meetings, our audit, the qualified report was sent to the state back in February. That was the Board of Ed side. The entire town audit has been finalized. We're in the process of signing that document. Officials from both the town of Orange and the Board of Education will be signing this, and that will complete the entire audit process. Grants, I wanted to review because you may have heard in the news, you've been hearing in our meetings about grants that we are receiving from the federal government in response to the pandemic. So I wanted to review just some of the grants that we've received to date, which are the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the CRF grant, and the Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Grant, which is also referred to as ESSER. Our Corona Relief Fund and ESSER grant have both been either committed or spent down. We are currently spending down the funds from, or calling down the funds from the state to complete the spending of those 2 grants. In addition, Orange recently received an entitlement for the Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief ESSER 2 grant. So we have ESSER 1 and now we have ESSER 2. This can be allocated to address learning loss among students, purchasing educational technology, providing mental health services and supports, school facility repairs and improvements to reduce risk of virus transmission or to improve indoor air quality, as well as other activities necessary to maintain the operation and continuity of services in the district. These funds need to be expended or committed by the end of September 30th, 2023. We're currently putting together that application that is due on April 26th from the district. And we have additional funding under the American Rescue Plan, also known as the ARP ESSER or ESSER 3, which would be for similar uses indicated in the ESSER 2 grant. The amount of this grant for Orange is still to be determined, but these funds would need to be either committed or expended by September 30th of 2024. So we do have some time with these funds to plan appropriately, strategically, and with thought of how we're going to be using these funds. And finally, under the finance report, I just wanted to put another plug in that we would encourage families to take advantage of our free lunches this year. Free lunches for all students and their siblings until the end of the school year. I was in Peck Place School the week before vacation, and I noticed in the kitchen there seemed to be a lot more bags on this particular day, and it was the pizza bowl day, and it smelled amazing. I'm trying to watch my figure, so I didn't try any, but I have to say they told me it was about 60 more lunches than they usually do. So we're going to continue with some of these hot lunch offerings. We know that they are popular with the children, so please, families at home, if you're watching this absolutely helps our food service program, so please be sure to take advantage of the free lunches. That concludes the finance report.
Any questions for Mr. Gray? No? Thank you.
I have facilities too, if you'd like.
Oh, that's right. Jeez. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, no.
No, that's quite all right.
No.
It's a short report, though. For facilities, I just wanted to review in our ongoing collaboration with the Orange Police Department, specifically Detective Carolyn Bailey, we continue to have discussions regarding the school safety and security and recently conducted lockdowns at all of the schools. The drills were modified so that all mitigating strategies could still be followed, but also going through the drills so that children knew what to do. The drills at each of the schools were very successful. Our children are fantastic. They know exactly what to do in these drills. Once the drills were concluded, teachers then did have a discussion with the children about what we would do in an actual situation, regardless of the mitigating strategies. And finally, as mentioned in an earlier meeting, our security infrastructure is continually evaluated with the Orange Police Department. And it was determined that there was a need for more badge reader access points. So we installed at strategic locations across the district a total of 13 new badge reader access card readers. And that concludes the facilities portion.
Anything else you do for us? That's it? You're done? Okay.
There's not much to say about transportation. HVAC, we will be doing another filter change before the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Gray? Okay, thanks.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Dr. Russo?
Good evening. I'd like to start by reviewing our district strategies to address learning loss. We continue to rely on our SRBI process, or our scientific research-based instruction process, which Mr. Ziman explained at the last board meeting. And on a side note, we rely on that process to help us with all learning gaps, regardless of a pandemic or not. We will have the opportunity to strengthen that process with some summer learning opportunities, which will be supported by the ESSER funds that Mr. Gray just referred to. So we're excited about those opportunities. And also, as stated at the last Board of Ed meeting, we had identified the anticipated gaps in June, and our teachers did have an opportunity to review those and make plans to address those at the March 19th professional planning sessions. And finally, we're going to engage in making curricular choices that include recovering, refreshing, and resetting curriculum. So recovering means like what to cover, what to reinforce. Refreshing, what do we cut out? What have we learned from the pandemic that we can cut with confidence, cut back, consolidate? What should we keep? And the resetting is what new curricular opportunities can we create based on what we've learned from the new technologies that we've relied on. Also, I'd like to share that we are going to commence Smarter Balance Assessment testing next week. That will continue through the end of May. And as a reminder, those results will not be included in the accountability report this year. We are excited to see those results because we have been in school full in person, and we anticipate that we might do better in certain areas. Also, I'd like to share that prior to vacation, we engaged in bedtime math. Those were 2 fun nights. We had over 200 participants. This included, well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the math specialists because they really organized this event. The first 40 minutes were hands-on activities. All the students who registered for bedtime math received kits so that they could use the materials from home with the presenter. It was free for us. And just so you know, some of the hands-on math activities included rock and roll hop, face-off, and glow-in-the-dark geometry. So it was fun to see what the students were doing. They were spotlighted. And afterwards, there was about 15 minutes spent for parents to learn about certain things that they could do, how to access the website, the games, and the materials, because so much time is spent on bedtime stories, you know, reading yourself to sleep. And so this was now a take on also engaging in math activities. And that's about it for my report this evening.
Any other questions for Dr. Russo? Very well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We will move on to board business. No? Where are you? I'm sorry? Special ed? No, there's no report this evening. Mike's not going to take it over. Yeah, Mike, yeah. Anyway, so we'll move on to board business. Chairman update. I wanted to update the board on some of the things that I spoke about at the last meeting. But first, before I do that, I need to thank Mary Shaw and the cafeteria staff for being so generous to the Board of Finance. We had them here as guests twice during the month. Chairman Houlihan reached out and they wanted to meet in person, but they felt that it was too small of an area in the town hall. So we offered this room for them to have their budget workshops here. And they were all very impressed, and I thank Mary especially for taking charge of that situation. And in particular, Mr. Leahy seemed to enjoy the wraps, the staff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Leahy might try to get in here at lunchtime, one time or another, for a wrap. Yeah, and maybe the pizza. But anyway, thank you very much. That was a job well done there. And we're always happy to try to cooperate with anyone we can in the town, especially given the times that we live in right now. I had mentioned about looking into possibly this board taking the junior high under its wing in the last meeting. And so I asked for some information, just curious about certain things. So I wanted to compare the amount of time the kids at the junior high were in school this past year compared to what we've done. And it's interesting, and I'm not casting blame or anything. I just want to know why, basically, and if there's anything that can be done to improve this. The middle school has 350 kids. They have been, since August 31st to March 22nd, either remotely learning or hybrid learning. As of March 22nd, all students, Monday through Friday, normal hours except Wednesday, which is dismissal. I think we all know the importance of kids being in school, so I'm going to look into this a little further. because I have some concerns about it. And like I said, I'm sure everyone's doing their best, but maybe we can assist and maybe we can do better with that. And another thing that came up was, speaking to some parents, the athletic fields at the junior high are apparently horrendous. And I'd like to know why that hasn't been addressed. I don't know what they're like at Woodbridge. I know Bethany and Woodbridge share junior high responsibilities. But I'd like to look into that as well, especially since it seems Amity has $1 million plus surplus every year. So I'd like to look into that a little bit. From my point of view, and this is my point of view, you know, when Sandy Hook happened, we immediately went into getting the vestibules and updating our security here. And there were concerns about the junior highs. And honestly, it wasn't until Mr. Brow became chairman that those vestibules were actually put in. So I just have some concerns about what more can be done for our kids at the junior high. Because at the junior high, it's only Orange kids. There's nobody else. It's not shared with anyone else. And I'd also be interested in maybe Woodbridge and Bethany, if they would be interested in maybe doing something on their own, with their own Board of Ed. So just so you know, I'll be speaking with our attorney, Attorney Marino, about some of the legalities of this, but I'm also going to have some conversations with the junior high and the administration up there as well. So that's my update on that. Any questions for me or any comments? Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, no, thank you. I guess this is more of a jurisdiction question, and I'm not quite sure where you're going with this, because Amity Middle School is not of our district, and I don't know how we can look into a school that isn't part of our district. I'm just a little concerned with, I feel like we have our charge of preschool through 6th grade, and I don't know how we can give ourselves the power to explore another
We
district.
certainly wouldn't be giving ourselves the power. That's why I would speak to the attorney. And this is something that's been talked about in the past by any number of people. It's not just my one night thinking, oh, that would be a good idea. You know, parents have approached me, board members have approached me about this. But yeah, clearly, there's going to be legal questions and whatever. I don't know. I'm only asking questions right now, just to find out, because I'm curious myself, and there's some people that have concerns in the community about some of these things. That's all. Anyone else? Yes, Sue?
Important that, given all of the discussions that people have had about the differences of when our children are up to 6th grade and then when they go to 7th and 8th grade, some of the things that are dramatically different, that I think that we could do better. And so the fact is that Orange has agreed to be in the Amity Regional School District. Question would need to be for the attorneys to say, can we change it to, instead of being for us, K to 6, we keep, they have 7 to 12. If we took back 7th and 8th, that would be a legal matter that we can look into, but it's worth taking the time to do that.
And I agree with the questions that have been asked of me and some of the questions I myself. We're going to look into it. That's all. It's that simple. Any other questions, comments? Ken?
I don't know that it will be a legal issue. It's really, but I do like the idea of the fact that they are our children and being able to extend it beyond 6th grade. And if nothing else, just to have conversations, I think would be an improvement. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Very well. Susan would like to give us an update. I know we talked some time ago about doing something for Fire Marshal Smith. So Susan, can you give us an update?
Yes, I reached out to a sign company to see what it would cost to do something, and I'll pass it this way and we can go back around. basically a sign that potentially could say, that's just me mocking it up, maybe about 3 or 4 feet, freestanding, potentially putting it between Mariel and the fire department, facing Orange Center Road. Have not heard back from the sign company. I reached out to Signcraft, who are a pretty big sign company in Naugatuck, and they're getting back to me with some estimated prices and things like that. So it basically says the Orange Board of Education honors Fire Marshal Timothy J. Smith. There's a picture of a firefighter and a child, and underneath it, it says, "For his dedication to the children of Orange." So any feedback, I would love to hear it. Any and all suggestions are definitely welcome. As I said, I mocked it up and said, take a look, tell me what you guys think. I'm happy to send you the actual document if you'd like.
Okay, and this sign would be there as a temporarily, or,
It would be a permanent sign.
oh, it'd be a permanent sign? Okay, all right, because I was going to suggest, often there are wonderful banners strung up on Orange Center Road that everybody can see that are announcing things, but it could be an honor type of thing, too. Okay, I didn't realize you were talking about a permanent sign.
Yeah, there's a product, it's not just wood. There's a product that is as strong as mahogany or teak, but it's a man-made product, and it doesn't age. It's like, I'll say it's like Trex, but it's not Trex. It's supposedly a very, substantial, that would be there as long as we'd want it to be there.
Susan? Again, we're just looking into this now. It'll eventually come to the board. I think at this point, though, Sue, when you gather information, or whatever information you can gather about the signs, or any other comments, Charles, I'll have you, this will go under buildings and grounds for discussion. Once you get some numbers and a few more ideas. If anyone on the board here has any ideas, Susan's been kind enough to take up the mantle. Contact Sue directly. All right? And then we'll see how the board wants to deal with this going forward. Go ahead, Sue.
Look at a lot of different options, like putting a plaque in each building, having something that would say DARE on it, that it would be Honor Tim, since it's a fire thing. But we felt that with the amount of work that Tim has done within all of our buildings and the recommendations that he did, it would be nice to have something that's a little bit larger, not just in a school, to honor him. So, again, open to other ideas or modifications or whatever. Let me know.
Anyone else? Actually, Kim, you had the idea of putting the plaques in the fire department, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, or someplace like that. That's something we should discuss as well, Charles, that idea, whether it was Kim's or whose it was. Any other questions, comments, folks? Very well. I think we will be moving on to operational memorandum number 05-20- process for submitting the healthy food certification statement for school year 21-22. This is a little bit lengthy. This is housekeeping. Anyone who's been on the board for a while knows we do this every year. So be patient because I've got to read a whole paragraph. In pursuant to CGS Section 10-21(5)F, I am asking for a motion that the Orange Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutritional standards during the period of July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. I would have thought there would have been a period somewhere in that sentence. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. Okay, do I have a motion? Betty, do I have a second? Susan? Any further discussion on this? No? No one wants me to read it again, do they?
No, I just was going to make a comment that this is something we do every year. Typically,
Yeah.
it's, we at least bring it up in finance because it's a cafeteria item, and it's pretty typical. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Okay, so I have Betty and Susan second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Got it? Okay, we have one more here. I am asking for a motion for the Orange Board of Education to allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutritional standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-2021Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. The sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. The sale is at the location of the event, and the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regular scheduled practice meeting or extracurricular activities. For example, soccer games, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held. Do I have a motion? Ken, do I have a second? Susan? Any further discussion on this one? Go ahead, Betty.
I'm just looking at that sentence again. Will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the nutrition standards and
Right.
beverages. And we're going to, we're asking for approval of that. Okay. I just want to make sure I was understood.
Okay. So what do we have, Ken? Ken and Susan? Any further discussion?
I mean,
Go
in
ahead.
most cases, some of the things that are not on those healthy foods are because either parents are there that can make the decision, and we don't have to act on their behalf.
Anyone else? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? You got that, Mary? Abstain? Thank you very much. Just to backtrack a little bit, I did have a discussion with Susan and Jeff about the passing of the young man and the naming of the pond and that sort of thing. The question that came to us was, in the history, in past history, has the board done anything on its own to recognize something like that? And to date, I can't find any place where they have. Keep looking. But I know that PTOs and schools themselves have done things. There's a tree outside of Turkey Hill in memory of a child. So, and I do believe that the junior high did something, Dr. Scarpetti, they planted a tree?
Yes, sir, they were scheduled to do so. I don't know if they've done that just yet, but they are planning to do so.
Okay.
That's all right.
Okay. All right, so that's where our discussion led on that. Okay, but we'll see if there's any history there, but I'm not so sure that there is. All right, let's move on to first reads. We have policy first read 3232, IDEA fiscal compliance. Policy first read, oh, I'm sorry, does anyone have any questions on that? If you have any questions between now and the second read, as always, contact Dr. Scarpetti or myself. Policy first read 3326, Board of Education credit card. Is that for me? I think we can vote on that one now. No? All right. Policy first read 3516.11, hazardous materials communication. And policy first read 9130, committee policy. Kim, your group's been busy. The last one there, that committee policy, that's the one regarding the long-range planning, right? Thank you very much for taking that up as quickly as you did with your committee. I appreciate that. Any questions on the first reads? All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kim.
Did you get your questions answered, Charles, or did you want to address those now?
I think, Ms. Brow, we communicated earlier today, and I haven't had time to fully digest, but I think I have the basis of my questions, I think, have been answered, but if I'm not, I will certainly follow up.
Standing committees, finance and operations. Ms. Riccio?
Yes, the Finance Subcommittee met prior to this meeting, as we always do, and we reviewed expenditures, profit and loss, everything is in order. We did review the cafeteria, and numbers are up on parent or children taking lunches, which we strongly encourage. Happy to hear about the audit, and that 21st century numbers have started going up a little bit, which is even better. And that's about it for finance. Thank you.
It's for Ms. Riccio. Okay, personnel policy, transportation, Kim?
So again, thank you to everyone who takes part in this process of getting us ready for policies. You know, we set an agenda and then we start giving homework. So thank you to Mike, Mary Evelyn, Vince, and following up with phone calls to CABE and answering all the questions to the committee for reading all the policies, and then for those of you who diligently read them and catch all the little things that we left to confuse you. We will meet again this month. Going forward, we'd like to start tackling some of the more substantive policies like homework, which with all the curriculum work that has been done over the past couple of years, it's probably time where we can start looking at our homework policy. And then in addition, I will just remind the board that the May board meeting is when the superintendent officially presents the class size report. So that will be on next month's agenda.
Any questions for Ms. Brow? As early as possible, Dr. Scarpetti, could you get that class size information to the board prior to that meeting? So that if there's any discussions that need to be taken. Bear in mind, folks, if you have any questions, you can always ask Dr. Scarpetti or Dr. Russo or myself, and take a look at those numbers. And I'm sure Dr. Scarpetti will get them out to us in plenty of time so we can have an informed discussion. Okay? Buildings and grounds. Charles?
Evening. I shared some tentative ideas with the Vice Chairman Cap and Dr. Scarpetti for our next building and grounds meeting, which is tentatively scheduled for next Monday. Out of respect of last week is when we traditionally meet before the board meetings, and it was vacation. And I hope that our team had a good rest, and so I didn't want to violate their vacation. So that is our tentative game plan, is to meet on Monday at Peck Place School. I did also take note today, you may have seen across the country, the Chicago Public Schools finally opened in person today for the first time in a year. And I do want to again thank the community and the board, Dr. Scarpetti and his team, because I really think it was a tremendous accomplishment, even a rare one here in Connecticut, to get our schools up and open, where today was the first day of in-person learning, from what I understand, in the city of Chicago. So I do really appreciate that. And then I will share with the subcommittee members, I'm trying to pencil in some of our future dates in ahead of time, so we keep track of those as well.
Questions for Charles? Charles, could you also add onto your agenda for that meeting we need to start having at least a discussion about the security guards? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Very well. Curriculum, Mr. Zyman.
We didn't have a meeting last month. We didn't have a full agenda. And Dr. Russo was willing to fold it into her report. We will be having a meeting this, next Monday, actually, but I have to see when Charles is going to have his, so we'll have to work around it.
Time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find the time.
So Evelyn stole your thunder again.
Evelyn, that was fine. Evelyn volunteered. It was Charles's group.
Aces?
So ACES met on April 8th. We are still operating in a surplus. The other piece is that ACES had their gala event, and I wanted to thank Dr. Scarpetti for joining that event virtually. I attended as well, and fun was had by all. Lots of great things, and they raised quite a bit of money, so, which was the goal, to support the students for extra things, not to fund any budgets, but for supporting programs, which was great. I do have big news, but I probably have mentioned to you that the Thomas Edison School that was in the Thomas Edison building in Meriden, Meriden has asked ACES, they told them that they're taking back the building. So our magnet school didn't have a home for next year. However, we have found a beautiful site. We used to be the Chase School in Waterbury, which is like a college campus. It's beautiful. And ACES is in the midst of all of the contract work to purchase it. It will be called ACES at Chase. It's spectacular. It's the amazing thing about it is that Chase, the people who owned Chase, the Chase School beforehand, literally just left everything there. Everything, all the whiteboards, all computers, science equipment, desks, everything that you can imagine when you're running a school. It's like they locked the door and just said, okay, we're good. And so it ended up helping significantly. It's huge. So right now, it's going to be a middle school magnet school, STEAM or STEM. I can't answer that honestly. But we're very excited to be able to open next year on time, and so students are able to enroll for that. And what's interesting is it's in Waterbury, so some of the children in that area, Waterbury, Beacon Falls, Derby, Ansonia, who might not have considered going to Meriden, would be able to go to Waterbury. It's closer for them. So it provides another opportunity for a magnet school for students in a different location. So, and from the students that were in Thomas Edison and Meriden, it's only about a 20, 25-minute bus ride. So, all good news. We're very excited about that, and happy to have that finally come to fruition and being able to dot all the i's and cross all the t's. So that's good. So that was our big news for the day. So, that's it.
Questions for Susan? All righty. So I'll be looking for a motion
Before
to,
you do that, Mr. Kraut, not to interrupt you, but we have some old business from last month that we didn't cover. Charles had asked about the minutes from prior meeting, and I didn't want to let that go. And in fact, the minutes that were there were actually accurate, so we hadn't voted on them. So we had two sets of minutes. One was the special board meeting, and then there was another meeting with regard to budget. Those meeting minutes were accurate. During the last board meeting, Charles had questioned whether or not it was supposed to be in one, and in fact, it was in the other one, which is actually where it was. So we didn't vote, we tabled that. So whether or not we need to vote on that now or in the next meeting? I know there was some discussion of whether Christian voted yes or no, and whether Carmen voted yes or no. We wanted to note that in the file, that I think Christian had voted no, and Carmen had voted yes.
okay. My initial thought is, it's not on the agenda, okay, and I'll take the blame for that. That's my fault.
I only noticed it because I read the minutes.
It slipped my mind. But thank you for picking up on that, Sue. I really appreciate that. So I think we would take that up at the next meeting, and it would have to be an agenda item. Is that all right with you, Charles? Okay. Yeah, so we'll take that up, Sue. And
Thank
just
you.
make sure that, Mary, we just have to make sure that gets on the agenda for the next meeting. All righty. Sorry about that, folks. That's on me.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. No, it needs to be brought up. Anyway, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Susan, Ken, seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Very well. We are adjourned at 8:08. Thank you, folks.